BJJ fighters are not getting paid the money they deserve. For more than 10 years, an ADCC winner's pay has been the same as the show money.
To the finals immediately here.
For the lowest-ranked UFC fighter, jiu-jitsu champions cannot conveniently train.
Via that, if you win a world championship, if you win a big tournament, you made it, which is not very true.
And live on the money they get from doing what they love. They have to look for other means. Why is this so? Why is BJJ paid peanuts compared to what is being paid in other sports? The number one reason is limited audiences compared to boxing, wrestling, MMA, or even kickboxing. BJJ has the fewest pairs of eyes in competition. For centuries, boxing and wrestling were the faces of combat sports, holding it down and drawing wide audiences. But this has brought a disadvantage to other emerging combat sports. The reason is because other combat sports have to be convincing enough to win the fans of the rooted combat sport. The UFC generates hundreds of millions of dollars per event through pay-per-view sales, but BJJ competitions like the IBJJF World Championships and the ADCC attract far fewer viewers and generate significantly less revenue. The smaller audience base translates to lower revenue from ticket sales, merchandise, and other revenue streams. Since fewer people follow or are willing to pay to watch BJJ events, the financial pool from which athletes can be paid is smaller. The limited audience also impacts the ability to secure lucrative broadcast deals or pay-per-view sales, which are major revenue sources for many sports. This brings us to the next reason why BJJ athletes' pay is very low. With fewer eyes in the sport, there are few or average sponsorships. These translate to minimal pay for the athletes. Typically, sponsorship deals in sports are driven by the visibility and popularity of the athletes. Because BJJ lacks the widespread media coverage and fan base of other sports, companies are less inclined to invest heavily in BJJ athletes for marketing purposes. This results in fewer and less lucrative sponsorship opportunities. Moreover, the brands that do sponsor BJJ athletes are often smaller and have limited marketing budgets compared to those sponsoring mainstream sports. Also, the UFC uniform sponsor, Venom, pays fighters from $4,000 up to $42,000 for champions. And this is just an incentive, not the fighter's purse. Although more sponsors are coming into BJJ, these sponsorships could be bigger if there was a wide range of media coverage. This is one reason BJJ fans can attest to. The only notable media coverage IBJJF and ADCC have is Flow Grappling. While it has good coverage, it is limited to just grappling fans. Media coverage is crucial for driving popularity and revenue in sports. Limited coverage means fewer opportunities for fans to engage with the sport, reducing its growth potential and the marketability of its athletes. This also affects the sport's ability to attract large-scale advertising and broadcasting deals, which are significant sources of income in other sports. For example, the UFC has grown significantly due to its extensive media coverage through its network deals over the years with Fox Sports Media, ESPN, and ABC.
5 seconds ago, you said it's all good, life is still good. How are you able to always keep this mindset?
I'm not sure. After the Gaethje fight was a big test for me in my personal growth. Practicing mindfulness and practicing gratitude. Because I said it yesterday or whatever, the other day with you, without gratitude, nothing's ever enough.
For BJJ to break into a wider audience and win over fans from other sports, it needs to be able to have coverage on bigger media networks. Maybe super fights or bigger tournaments could feature on bigger networks. This is a way revenue can flow into the sport as well as into the athlete's pocket. Another reason why BJJ athletes are paid very little is because of market saturation in sports. Combat sports like MMA, boxing, and wrestling often overshadow BJJ in terms of popularity and financial investment. The combat sports market is highly competitive with MMA, particularly the UFC, dominating much of the attention and investment. BJJ, being a grappling-based martial art, often serves as a feeder sport to MMA. Many talented BJJ practitioners transition to MMA for better financial opportunities, which can drain some of the sport's star power and marketability. This further limits the commercial growth and financial reward available within BJJ itself. Could this be because Brazilian jiu-jitsu is new? BJJ as a competitive sport is new compared to established sports. Although BJJ has been around for decades, its recognition as a competitive sport with organized events is new. This means it hasn't had as much time to build a substantial following, extensive infrastructure, or significant commercial investment. In contrast, sports like soccer, basketball, and even MMA have had more time to develop lucrative professional ecosystems. But you would argue that since BJJ competitions came to the limelight almost at the same time as MMA, why is the growth slower? This is because of the budget. Many people talk about how the UFC was bought for $2 million, but no one talks about the $40 million that was invested in the company before it became a billion-dollar company. Many BJJ competitions operate on a smaller scale with limited budgets. The financial structure of BJJ events typically includes lower entry fees and ticket prices compared to larger sports events. Event organizers often operate with tight budgets, prioritizing operational costs and minimal profits. This economic constraint limits the prize money and appearance fees available for athletes.
So for me, who started in 2015 competing in ADCC in Brazil, we were on a basketball court, maybe 200-300 people in the crowd, to now 10,000 plus people in there.
You could say that because high-paying competitions are rare in BJJ, the big dogs are not inclined to pay fighters more. One thing is that, if there is no competition, there would not be a push to pay BJJ fighters more. The ADCC is one of the few events offering substantial prize money, but this pay has been the same for almost 20 years.
So, I mean, from my perspective, athlete pay in general in grappling is pretty bad, but ADCC's existed for over 20 years, and it hasn't even kept up with inflation. It's remained $10,000.
Even when the sport has increased in viewers, fighters are still paid the same, until Craig Jones decided to do something about it. Basically, within a year, the athletes in jiu-jitsu will now be paid more than they have ever been paid. A lot of monetary changes ADCC is making is because athletes are moving to CJI. Is this good for the sport? Why did it take this long for the biggest BJJ competition to increase the pay of fighters? Let us know in the comments section. Kindly like and subscribe to the channel for more BJJ and MMA content.